Welcome back to Wisconsin Family. We're here at Wisconsin Granite in McFarland in their showroom, and what a lovely showroom it is.
It really is. Really looking forward to seeing what they have to offer this time. Seems like every time we come in, they've got some new stuff. So
Absolutely.
Looking
But
forward
first,
to that.
here's somebody that we haven't seen in a while, John Scherer from Trinity Financial Planning. John, so good to
Thanks
have
for
you back.
coming.
Good, nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, for sure. So let's hop right into the most controversial thing we can talk about, the election. We've been hearing a lot about the election lately. A lot of people I talk to are nervous about what the election results might mean for their money. Can you talk to us a little bit about what advice do you have for folks?
Well, first of all, fear is not a strategy, and really neither is hope. You want to operate on a plan that's well thought out to take you through the good times and the bad times. And so the most important thing about your money and having a plan is sticking to that plan.
Sure. So not saying, oh, well, this doesn't seem to be working, I better back out.
Well, and taking a look at these external factors, the presidential election, what interest rates are going to do, that stuff should be planned for. Mm-hmm. And then as long as your situation hasn't changed and you control the things that you can control, not reacting to outside forces is really what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So we've had close elections before. We've even had elections where the popular vote outweighed the Electoral College. Doesn't it seem like, though, some of these radical changes in foreign policy, immigration, could have some kind of ripple effect on the markets?
I think that's what people are afraid of, and because it feels different, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is that it's, if you look historically, it's never different. John Templeton's a famous investor, and one of his quotes is that the most expensive 4 words in investing are "this time it's different." And when you take a look back, it certainly feels different these days with what's going on. But go back to 2008 when the oldest bank in America went out of business that had been through the Civil War and all those things. Wow. That felt different. When we had the terrorist attacks on 9/11, that was certainly different.
Mm-hmm.
Back when the technology in the 90s and everything was going, it was the new economy, that felt different. And you go back to the 70s with the OPEC oil. I mean, it always feels different at the time when we're in it. And then looking back, you go, oh yeah, it wasn't so different. And so that perspective is really important to keep in mind as we go through whatever's going to happen over the next 4 years.
So it sounds like you're saying that you expect a Trump presidency to bring good things to the economy and to markets. Actually
not at all in that, and probably the opposite direction. It's just that those external factors, like whoever's president, doesn't make that big of an impact.
Right.
I've got a handout that talks about some historical stock market returns going back to the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. And if you take a look at it, that when a Republican has been in office, the average return's been about 2%, and when a Democrat's been in office, the average return has been about 11%.
Wow.
And not typically what you think of when you hear of Democrats. The perception is anti-business sort of a thing, and Republicans pro-business. When we look at the numbers, and that includes the Great Depression. So if you take out some real outliers right before and right after the Great Depression, it's still an advantage to the Democrats by like 8% to 5% sort of a thing. And the point is not that Democrats are good for the economy and Republicans are bad, but it's that it's really sort of a randomness, right? It doesn't make that much difference, and it goes back to controlling the controllables, as we call it. What can you control? How much you save, how much you pay in taxes, those sorts of things.
So it sounds like the actions that people can take are really the things that have always made good financial sense to begin with.
That's exactly right. It's taking care of the things, that goes back to that first thing, having a plan and sticking to it, and not worrying so much about the external things, controlling the internal things. Because the reality is we can't control what happens. Whatever happens is going to happen, and trying to guess and get in front of what it's going to be, unlike most people in the financial world where they say, here's what's going to happen, I know that I can't predict the future, but we don't have to if we control those other things.
Yeah. As you've said before, we know for sure that over time the stock market is either going to go up or down.
That's absolutely right.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
So are there any words of wisdom that you can share with folks about actions to actually take during this change of the guard in the White House? I mean, obviously, you want to try to look ahead some, but what do we know? I mean, we don't really know anything going into this next presidency.
And that's the thing, and you said a really good thing, Justin, that we don't really know. The truth is we never really know what to expect going forward. And we look back on when the election happened, the markets were down so much overnight, and then they came back. I'm a little bit and again, I'm not going to predict what's going to happen, but if I had to guess, I would say we'd expect to see returns that are a little bit lower going forward than they have been in the past, just because of that history we looked at. And it's not on the chart that I showed, but when the Republicans control Congress and the White House, the gap is even a little bit wider. So again, not because of what I think foreign policy is going to be or tax policy or anything else, but just because it's always been this way for the last 100 years. I would expect going forward that we're going to have slightly lower rates as far as returns go. And so the question of what do you do about that is, let's revisit. This is a great time to revisit your plan, not to make reactions, but to say, okay, here's what we had planned for. Does that plan still hold water based on your individual goals, your individual savings rate? Are there things you can take advantage of with tax savings and those sorts of things? So to be mindful of, okay, what happens if things are lower, but not to take action on, I think things are going to be, but to sort of do like stress testing, we call it, and take a look at that and go, is there anything fundamentally that should change in my situation?
Are there places that people can go to get unbiased information about how these election results might affect their financial situation?
Well, this is not an unbiased answer, but if you go to our website, trinfin.com, I do think that we take a look at some things that most people don't and look at it from an objective, not right or wrong, but it just sort of is what it is standpoint. So to go there, we've got a blog that we have some information on these and other topics, and people can feel free to contact us if they have questions.
John Scherer from Trinity Financial, he's got an excellent website, trinfin.com, with an awesome blog too. So check that out if you want more information. And thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Don't go away, there's more Wisconsin Family coming up after the break.